Hello, patrons. Thank you guys so much for being supporters of this channel. To give you some thanks. Hello, patrons. Thank you guys so much for being supporters of this channel. As part of a thank you, I want to continue to give you guys some bonus content. And so this is a bonus content on the back of my Last Word cocktail I just put out. It is my favorite variation of the Last Word. As with a lot of gin-based cocktails, there are several variations you typically can do, swapping out the spirit. So in the video I just put out, there was a Last Word that's made with gin. There's a variation called the Final Ward that is made with whiskey. My favorite variation is made with Mezcal. And I'm also going to talk to you about a general favorite tip of mine, which is what I like to call the gin Mezcal swap. What that means is for almost every cocktail that I've had that is gin based, if you swap out that gin for some smoky Mezcal, it tends to be awesome. And that's, of course, only going to be appealing to someone who has a general preference for Mezcal. I know Mezcal is very hot right now, but I love it because of its strong smoky flavor. It's definitely an improvement on tequila, in my opinion, which is also made from the agave plant. Cocktails that tend to pair well with gin and the herbal notes of gin just also tend to really pair well with Mezcal. And so another example of this is the Negroni, which is gin, Campari, and sweet vermouth. You swap out the gin for Mezcal to make a Mezcal Negroni. It is awesome, one of my favorites. And that tends to be very consistent for gin-based cocktails. Swap out the Mezcal. So let's go ahead and make this variation really quick. I've got all the ingredients here. Again, we're going to start off with 3/4 of an ounce of lime. This cocktail, again, is super easy and really great for beginners because of the equal parts ratios, right? It's just 0.75 ounces of every single ingredient. And that would be about 22.5 milliliters of each ingredient. So ideally you get yourself a jigger that has 0.75 ounce cap, but here I'm just measuring it out with my angled measuring jigger. I'm gonna throw in the lime juice, come at it with some Chartreuse. And again, this is the green Chartreuse. There's also a yellow Chartreuse variation. The green is definitely a little bit more potent. This is about 55% alcohol by volume. The yellow is a bit more mellow, yellow mellow, at about 40%. But this one calls for green Chartreuse. So even though you're only adding 0.75 ounces of your base spirit, in this case your Mezcal, you're still getting a good amount of alcohol in there from the green Chartreuse as well as from the Luxardo Maraschino Liqueur. This comes in around 32% alcohol by volume. So again, we're going to add equal parts, so 0.75 ounces of our Maraschino, easily the biggest bottle in my repertoire. I actually use it as a bookend for some of my cocktail books up on top of my home bar. Okay, and then this is where we would normally add gin for the Last Word. We're going to swap that out for the Mezcal. Now, this drink has a couple of names I've heard floating around. The one I typically use is called La Última Palabra, which is just the last word in Spanish, which makes sense when you're swapping out gin for a Mexican Mezcal. I've also heard it called the Last of the Oaxacans, also an homage to Mexico. Whatever you want to call it, it's delicious. So we're going to add about 4 or 5 ice cubes to your shaker-tin. Again, when it comes to shaking, technique doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to have the perfect amount of ice. It'll come to a equilibrium dilution in about 15 seconds, regardless of how much ice you put in. So let's give that a shake. Okay, once you've shaken that, you're gonna wanna break the seal by hitting the shaker tin, again, right where the separation starts to happen between the glass and the shaker tin. Just give it a gentle hit right there. It'll come right off. Should not have to be banging your wrist against that. And then, gotta grab my Hawthorne strainer and my fine mesh strainer here. And you're gonna wanna, again, strain this into your chilled coupe glass. You should have chilled this either in the refrigerator or the freezer, or you can put some ice water in there while you're making the cocktail. We'll double strain that in. Again, you double strain to both catch the small bits of ice shards that came from shaking, as well as any pulp or seeds. You can see there's actually a little lime seed caught in here that the Hawthorne strainer did not catch. So that's why you double strain. Okay. So here we have La Última Palabra. Let's give it a taste. Oh yeah, that is tasty. Yeah, the smokiness of the mezcal really comes through. It's a great cocktail to add mezcal to, just because there's so much other stuff going on here with the green chartreuse and the potent flavor of the Maraschino Liqueur. That you need something to kind of stand up against it. And so if you get a really smoky mezcal, I like this one. It's called U-Ball. More common one is called Vida. You'll see that everywhere. It's a green bottle mezcal, really, really tasty as well. Highly recommend it. So again, this is my preferred variation of the last word, La Última Palabra. And the takeaway here is, typically when you have a gin-based cocktail, if you like mezcal, try swapping out the gin for mezcal. It tends to be a really nice variation. So cheers, guys, and thank you again for being supporters of the channel. Couldn't do it without you. Until next time.